Learning obedience by the things that we suffer. I mean, even Hebrews 5, 7 through 9 is talking about Jesus learning obedience by the things that he suffered. Paul is describing this in Philippians chapter 3. And again, he's describing it in Galatians chapter 3 and 4 when he says that Scripture has concluded. That Greek word translated concluded means to confine or imprison. Everyone understand that the promise of Jesus Christ may be given to those that believe. He says, what was the purpose of the law then? It was our schoolmaster is talking about a tutor or governor, one responsible for our care and our discipline. He says, for we were watched like a sentinel under the law, held. Again, is talking about being imprisoned to sin until the faith that should afterward be revealed. He says, but once faith has come, we're no longer under the law. And we got to see that that's what he's talking about in Galatians 5 when he says, say then walk in the Spirit and you won't carry out the desires of the flesh. For the flesh envies against the Spirit and the Spirit against the flesh, so you can't do what you will, or you desire. He says, but if you be led of the Spirit, you're under no law. I mean, and how then do we walk in the Spirit? Because Paul describes that in Romans 8, verses 5 and 6. He says, those that are after the flesh, mind the things of the flesh. That Greek word translated mind is the same one translated affections in Colossians 3:2. If you be risen with Christ to the right hand of God, seek the things above. Set your affections on the things above and not the things below, for you are dead and your life is hid with Christ and God. I mean, so we need to understand learning obedience by the things that we suffer, because if you go on to chapter 4 of Galatians, he says, that an heir, as long as he's a child, differs nothing from a servant, though he be Lord of all, but is under tutors and governors until the time appointed of the Father. This is what he's describing in chapter 3 of Galatians. He says, likewise we, when we were children, were in bondage under the elements of the world until the fullness of time came when God sent forth his Son, made of a woman, made under the law, to redeem us who were under the law, that we might receive the adoption of sons. Because you're a son, you're no longer a servant. But we got to see that as long as until faith comes, we're kept, we're watched, we're disciplined under the law. I mean, you're talking about learning obedience.